You're now listening to the Boys in the Booth podcast with your hosts, Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams.
That's a big one.
Yeah!
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Welcome to the Boys in the Booth podcast, episode 225. Cody, Abrams, and Melbourne, and our good buddy, Cory Morrell. Chunk, how are you? Give us a wave. Good to see you. Back to work, as we know. And it's the most wonderful time of the year, of course, talking about the World Juniors and the tournament back in Ottawa for the first time since 2009. We got to see some great action in our hometown in Brockville between Latvia and Czechia. We'll get to those two teams at the end in Group A and Group B, respectfully. But first off, let's go into to Group A. Actually, before we get into that, just how nice is it to be able to do this in person? A couple of cold ones, too. This is great.
Yeah, all back to where it started in one of our parents' basements in Brockville.
This is great. I just want to say, doing this in person is like the most difficult challenge for me, trying to figure out how to get the audio set up correctly.
No, correction. How to get me set up,
yes,
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So you're going to hear on the start of this episode, we were hot on the mic.
Most of that intro was Harp vamping so that Chad can fiddle with every game possible, because
my bad.
we were quite hot on that intro there, but it's looking good now. I think the levels are getting better, and but being in person is the best. We had a couple of pops. We just finished watching Czechia play Latvia in an exhibition game, pre-tournament game for the World Juniors in Brockville down at the Memorial Center. So that was really awesome, and we're back in person for the first time in what feels like forever.
Yes, it certainly does. And actually, again, before we get into Group A and starting with Team Canada, of course, have a surprise interview that I want to play for you guys. So I was the PA announcer for the game tonight at the Memorial Center, which was a really cool experience. Usually I'm at the rink doing play-by-play, but it was really cool to be down at ice level and have that experience for the game. So on my way out, I was able to get an interview with former NHL defenseman and Czechia coach Ladislav Šmíd.
No.
So here we go, boys.
Let's hear it.
Here at the Brockville Memorial Center with a former NHL defenseman and coach for Team Czechia ahead of the 2025 IIHF World Junior Hockey Championships, Ladislav Šmíd. Ladislav, first of all, thanks for doing this, and pretty good performance for you guys here in a pre-tournament game against Team Latvia, a 5-1 victory. What stands out to you the most about your team's performance?
Well, I think our penalty kill was decent today. I think we took way too many penalties, that can be really costly in a big tournament like World Juniors. I thought we had parts of the game that we took control of the game, but then I thought first period was pretty good from our side, but then in the second period I thought that Latvia kind of took over, and we didn't play hard enough for my taste. We were stick checking too much, but nice to see that we bounced back in third period and we kind of I don't want to say cruised for victory, but we kind of took control and we didn't give up much. But like I said, we need to tighten it up, especially when it comes to the penalties, and then also in our D zone. I thought we gave up way too many chances around our net, rebounds, and our box outs weren't sharp enough. So we still have some time to work on those, but the World Junior is coming up pretty quick, so we really need to work on those things.
Excellent. And how does it feel to be behind the bench and be coaching these young players playing for their home country? And what's your message to the group ahead of the tournament in Ottawa?
Oh, it's a huge honor. I played 3 World Juniors, and I remember how cool it was. What a cool experience, especially in Canada. That for this age group, it doesn't get much better than playing World Juniors in Canada. A lot of people, even for an exhibition game like this, it's a sold out crowd. So great experience. experience. I just want the kids to enjoy it. Like I say, it doesn't get much better. When you put that jersey over your head, representing your country, it's at any level. It's a huge honor. So hopefully the kids can enjoy it. Obviously, it's a bit stressful. There's a lot of eyes on you, but if we can bring the group together, they can work for each other and play as a team. I think we can be successful, but we'll see. We got to take it day by day, game by game.
Ladislav, well said. You were a terrific NHL defenseman. You're a terrific coach for this Czechia team. Welcome to Brockville. Thank you for coming. Best of luck in Ottawa in the tournament.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, guys. It was an awesome experience. Thanks. Appreciate it.
That was incredible.
That was cool, eh?
I can't believe you got that.
Yeah.
That was good. 3 things about that. First thing is you can just turn it on, eh, Harp? Like, if I did that interview, it would honestly sound like one of those videos where someone just walks up with a microphone, sticks it in their face, and it's like super casual. That sounded like TSN Harp. Yeah. Like he just snapped onto it. Second thing is some of the stuff he talked about in the game, he said that his team took way too many penalties, and that was certainly the case. That opened the door for Latvia quite a bit. And the third thing is that he said that Latvia took over in the second period. And I think that's so funny because we were sitting in Czechia's end. And I was like, oh, well, we're going to see more of the game in the second period. And then they start taking over the plays in the other end. And we're like, great, of course they take over. Why not?
Yeah.
So a little backstory to before we got that going, before we get into Group A here in Team Canada and the rest. So I'm on my way out and I bump into one of the trainers for Team Czechia and I'm like, hey, was that Ladislav Šmíd on your bench? Because I recognized him.
No, did you recognize him or did you have the game notes?
No, I recognized him.
So you would know him to see him at the supermarket?
Yes.
Okay, that's...
Yes. It's weird, but kind of cool at the same time.
I would not recognize
Edmonton Oilers defenseman, all of it. Okay, so I asked him, was that Ladislav Šmíd on the bench? He goes, hang on. Goes right in right away, pulls him out. He goes, hey, give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back out with you. And he comes back out and just asked him if I could pull him aside for a couple of minutes for a quick interview. And awesome guy. And that was pretty cool. Right, boys?
That's really cool. It also kind of sounded like politician-esque. It sounded like he was trying to filibuster. Like, he went on for probably 3 minutes straight for each answer.
Also, with his answers, like the penalties and everything, it did not sound like a coach of a team that just won a hockey game 5-1. Am I right?
Well, that was something that I was...
But I like it, though.
No, that was something I was mentioning to my girlfriend, Rebecca, at the game. It's like, Latvia can come out of that with some wins, the way they played, and then, if they won the game, they'd be ecstatic.
Oh, yeah.
But then Czechia winning 5-1 and taking a lot of penalties, allowing some chances, you knew they were going to get ripped apart even though they win. And that's kind of how it works in this tournament with like the upper echelon teams and the sort of the ones who want to stay in the tournament.
Yeah, because it should have been 10-1. Like, if you're the coach, that's what you're saying to your team. Like, it should have been 10-1.
Yeah.
But that was really cool, man. I didn't know what you were going to say, like who it was going to be that you got the interview of when you teased it beforehand.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. Something else pretty cool, Casey and I sitting in the stands watching the game, and you see some of the scratched players walk by in the stands of the Memorial Center.
Yeah, so get into those names.
Well, so we saw Edward Chalet, who was scratched tonight, presumably because he has nothing else to prove on this team. He's currently playing in the American League. By the way, that's so nice that just went off.
True.
The stove in the background. That sounds much better now. But so we saw Edward Chalet walk by and a couple other players. Case, could you recognize either one? Like, I wasn't sure, but...
Yeah, the Gajan... that's his name. Gold.
Yeah, Adam Guyan.
Okay, yeah.
Blackhawks.
Yep.
Goaltending prospect, And Michael Hrabel was a healthy scratch tonight. He, of course, was a Utah draft pick. And something else about Utah, I sent this message to you guys beforehand, but Ryan Jankowski, who used to be with Hockey Canada in a role, he is a part of the scouting department with Utah Hockey Club. So recognized him right away in the building. building before the game got going tonight. So that was cool. A lot of big faces in the building, man. It was awesome.
Okay, and I said this to Case. Jankowski was another guy who you just recognize. You know him to see him?
Yes.
Okay, that's
well, you're a freak. He can't remember what he had for lunch yesterday.
That's so odd to me. I'm happy for you that you're getting to meet these people that you know, but that's crazy to me that you would recognize.
Savant. That's the word that people use.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could have a whole conversation about Harper's superpowers, but
oh my god,
and the lack thereof.
I was just about to say that too. Anyway, thank you to Ladislav Šmíd for that great interview. Congrats to Team Czechia on the 5-1 victory over Latvia in the pre-tournament game in Brockville tonight. Again, that was just awesome. We will be talking more about Czechia and Latvia later on in the episode, but let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Shall we? Okay, so Group A, and we'll start right at the top with Team Canada. So again, you know the drill. This is our World Juniors preview episode. We go into a player each to watch from each country going into the tournament that starts Boxing Day in Ottawa on TSN, by the way. So starting with Team Canada, Case, take it away.
Yeah, so as these guys know, I have recently went down an absolute rabbit hole looking at future drafts and some of the top 5, top 10 players that stand out. And it resulted in me talking a lot of shit in our group chat about Porter Martone and how he would pass James Higgins in the rankings and go number 1 overall next year's draft.
We've got a bet on.
We put a bet on.
$20 on it. I've got $20 that James Higgins will go number 1. You've got 20 on Martone going number 1.
Just, want to point out that I have the worst odds there, but I'm going to stand with it. And I would be an absolute phony and a little bit of a coward if I didn't pick him right here as my player to watch. And it just makes sense. He just turned 18 in October 26. He already has 3 seasons in the OHL, 147 games, 160 points, and 161 penalty minutes. This season, he has 21 goals and 33 assists in 26 games, which is good for 54 points and a pace of 131, which would put him at 15th best all time for an 18-year-old in the OHL. He's 6'3", 207 pounds, uses all of that size. He's physical, hence the penalty minutes, but also drives the net well with the puck. Sick release, and some of the smoothest hands that you'll see out of like a bigger guy, a power forward, really. And kind of want to, we're running out of power forwards, so it's good to see. He's a leader, captain of the Steelheads at 18, Team Canada World Junior U18 last year. He was the captain. I expect big things out of him, and I think that this tournament could go a long way for him passing Higgins in the draft. Both of them made their teams, and we've seen it be the case where Nico Hischier passed Nolan Patrick because of his play for Switzerland in the World Juniors.
Totally. This tournament means everything for the draft rankings, and you can see as we're looking at it here in front of us, ranked number 2 on some boards, number 3 as low as number 4. I think that's the lowest.
That's insane.
But he's not going to go outside number 4. We can guarantee that, I think, unless something crazy happens.
Sure.
Shane Wright went 4th overall when he was supposed to go first, so crazier things have happened.
Yep.
But yeah, Porter Martone is having an incredible season, and he's kind of snuck up on that number 1 pick. Like he's gunning for it now, and this tournament could do a lot for him. Is he a Quinton Byfield type player? Like, is that the comparison that you want to make?
No, I want to jump in here. The comparison that I've seen across the board on Porter Martone is Corey Perry.
Oh,
interesting.
Boy.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then Team Canada's, then I absolutely love him.
And the Anaheim Ducks better be hoping they get to select this guy.
Yeah, so Porter Martone, incredible year so far. You've gone through the numbers. You can see in terms of club stats, number 2 on the team behind only Gavin McKenna, which, by the way, we're going to get into that.
Oh,
crazy.
Yep.
17.
Crazy 17-year-old. But Yeah, that's a good pick, man. Like, he's going to be one of the go-to guys for the offense for Team Canada.
On Team Canada, typically the undrafted players get a little bit less of a role because they have 19-year-olds who they rely on, and that's what happens. But I've seen Porter Martone kind of be, slotted in top 6, playing on the right side and kind of being relied upon here. So I'm going to be watching him.
Yeah, and we talked about this before we started. Like, Team Canada's forward group this year is incredibly stacked. And the fact that Michael Misa is not at this tournament also helps a guy like Martone for going first overall too, because Misa, even though he's having an incredible year as well, didn't make the team. So
we should also note too, like, some other high picks who aren't in this tournament for Team Canada: Beckett Seneca, third overall pick of the Anaheim Ducks; Zane Parekh, Calgary Flames draft choice; T. Ginla, who unfortunately has season-ending hip surgery, I believe, so that's why he wasn't invited in the first place. And Carter Yakimchuk of the Ottawa Senators.
That one shocked me. His preseason
big right shot D. Anyway,
I've got more though too. Matthew Wood didn't make the team. He played last year. So that's not something you see very often. Where
Nashville Predators pick, very good player at UConn.
Yeah, Cam Allen also.
True, Capitals. Yeah.
You mentioned Zane Parekh. Riley Heat didn't make the team. Andrew Cristall you didn't mention, and that's a big one.
Yeah.
Denver Barkey. Like, the list goes on of really solid players who didn't make the team this year, and it's tough out there. But that's why, talking beforehand, we're trying to figure out who we think the favorites are. It's got to be Canada. Like, look at the forward.
I mean, the guys you just said who aren't on this team would be a top player on half of the teams in this tournament.
Exactly.
That's true.
Well, Michael Misa is leading the OHL in points.
Yeah.
As a draft eligible player, and he didn't make this team, which, by the way, I think is pretty crazy, but we'll have to digress.
They have a number of highly talented players they can take. They don't have a number of highly talented 6'3", 210-pound players they can take.
That's really
that's
true.
the difference.
And it is, it goes back to the Doug Armstrong line with building that Canada Four Nations roster. We're not just going to pick all the top Canadian scorers in the NHL. Like, we're trying to build a team, so we got to keep that in mind as well. But anyway, the main focus here, is on the players who are on Team Canada.
Yes.
Casey picked Porter Martone. Chad, let's get to you.
Well, I'm going to go with this guy up on the screen here right now. Gavin McKenna, the 17-year-old who is leading every other player on this Team Canada in points in the CHL. He's been incredible this year. 19 goals, 41 assists for 60 points in 30 games. That's exactly 2 points per game for a kid who isn't even eligible to be drafted this year. Like, Case and I were talking at the game tonight, like, we need a better league for some of these kids to play in, because
kidding.
Some of these young players are dominating the CHL, and it's like, man, if you're getting 2 points a game, are you really bettering your career? I guess you have to dominate at some point somewhere. And,
for sure.
But yeah, so I'm picking Gavin McKenna because, further to a point that Case made, Team Canada normally relies on its 19-year-olds to carry the offense, but this is an interesting year because they have younger players, specifically Martone, who Case picked as a draft-eligible player this year, and McKenna, who I'm taking as a player to watch, draft-eligible player next year, to really carry their offense. Like, Craig Button said it the other day, and I heard him say this, I forget who it was to, but Gavin McKenna is the best offensive player on Team Canada. And he's 17 years old.
Well, guess who Craig Button last year on this podcast said was the best player on Team Canada, who was going into his draft year? Macklin Celebrini. So we're seeing the same theme play over again here, which is very interesting.
Exactly. And guess who's been incredible for the Sharks this year?
Macklin Celebrini.
I will be absolutely baffled if Gavin McKenna is not first overall next year. When I went down that rabbit hole,
God,
when I went down that rabbit hole, like, there was some question mark about this year. No, there isn't next year.
No.
And then also 2 seasons from now, Landon Dupont, like pencil that guy in first overall. Can't wait for him to be on Team Canada. But back to the guys on this team.
Look at this note on Elite Prospects. They classify him player type a cerebral tactician.
I've never seen a player described like that before.
Okay, fact check me on this one.
Wow.
Connor Bedard's cousin.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
As if.
Yeah. So
seriously,
that should be on Elite Prospects, but they don't have that.
Yeah, I don't think they stretched the cousin.
Yeah,
but
no,
but that's correct.
They should though.
Yeah. His season last year in the WHL as a 16-year-old, ridiculous. His U18 stats.
Yeah.
10 goals, 10 assists in 7 games.
Yeah.
He's just dominant, and he's going to continue to dominate.
So he's my player to watch. Harp, who's yours?
Well, we it's funny how well we're just connected, the three of us. Sometimes we've got a real good theme going here.
Get out of my head.
2 draft eligible players. I'm going with the same thing. Matthew Schaefer of the Erie Otters. 17-year-old defenseman, 22 points in 17 games with Erie this year in the O. Here's a great comment from Jeff Merrick. Skates like Jay Bowmeister. Just a beautiful skater.
Ever heard of him?
A big part of that Blues Cup team in 2019. And again, just, has incredible hockey sense. And here's a comment from an NHL scout. Talk about the fact that Martone has a chance going first overall, Hagens as well. Well, this kid has a chance of going first overall in 2025 as well. So this is from an article on Daily Faceoff. This is from an NHL scout who says, quote, "I'd take him first in a heartbeat. Every team craves a defender like Schaefer. The raw talent has been there ever since he jumped into the OHL, but he just needed to show it, and he's showing it in spades this season." So Matthew Schaefer, I believe he has been practicing as the quarterback on the top power play unit for Canada as well as a 17-year-old. So again, it's just like so impressive. Martone, McKenna, Schaefer, all these guys who are young in a 19-year-old's tournament, draft eligible still, waiting to be picked by their NHL teams in a year or 2, and these guys will be huge parts of a very strong Canadian roster
for the next few years.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like, we're talking about the youngest players on the team who will potentially be the most impactful, which does not happen. Like we talk about every year, there's always a comment from one of us made, because it's true, that this is a 19-year-olds tournament. Like, this is the tournament of guys who have been drafted. Like, you look at Team Canada, usually there's not a single player on the team who has not been drafted unless they're draft eligible like this year, and you've got, a handful of young kids who are going to be so impactful. So.
Just goes to show like how good these kids are every single year, every single draft class. It's absolutely wild. I don't think we expected Macklin Celebrini, for example, to be as good as he's been so far in the National Hockey League. So
true.
Yeah, this is great, and a nice way to kick it off with these 3 players.
Yes, I was going to say for Celebrini, true, he's been incredible, but my Be a Pro player has way more points than him.
Oh my god!
On his line.
Yeah, well, if you want to talk about the NHL, if you want to talk about the NHL video game, I got Matthew Schaefer 15th overall. So,
Whoa!
Weird, but this guy is an absolute climber on the draft rankings, mostly because what he's doing this season. But it's going to. I mean, I don't want to be the team picking 2nd or 3rd overall in this draft, because there's 4 or 5 guys that all fit in that clump.
I'd say 4.
It's a tough choice to make.
If you're a team that needs a defenseman, you're probably going to take Schaefer 2nd overall. But what? Then you're not taking Hagens, Martone, Misa. It's just like hindsight's going to be huge for this draft, and someone's going to look like a bit of a loser in it.
It's like, how much weight do you want to put on your organizational needs versus taking the best player available, right?
But I think this year is unique where, honestly, I think the top 4 players, they all kind of have a shot to go first overall. I don't think the gap between 1 and 4 is as big as it normally is. So I think if you're picking 2 or 3, you're kind of just going for fit, no?
glass half full guy Chad is. He's like, you can't miss. I would love to pick second.
Well, that's good.
I'm like, I'd hate that.
Chad sounds like Barry Trotz right now in Nashville. We need a franchise center. We could go that direction. We need another franchise defenseman for Roman Josi to pass the torch to. We could go in that direction.
Well, they're probably going to be picking 1 or 2 overall.
Yes, exactly.
You want me to do my Barry Trotz impression?
Oh, God.
I'll trade everyone. I don't care. I'll blow it up. Like,
we're going to start a rebuild plan if this continues.
Yeah. Like,
All right, focus.
Anyway, we're getting sidetracked here. Yes, you're right. Focus.
3 hour.
Okay, great way. I'm here for it. We got lots of drinks, so this is
And we've got our bartender here.
Yes, we do. Chunk. Oh, thank God you're here. All right, let's move on now to the U.S.
Okay.
Kind of going from... We're kind of projecting the teams here best to last in this division, but I mean, anything can happen. So, moving forward in Group A, the U.S. Case.
I pumped this guy's tires at the draft. I mentioned that he could have been maybe the best defenseman in the draft last season. I could be wrong about that, but I stand with him, so I'm going to pick him. I'm going to go ahead and say that Zeev Boyum is the player to watch on Team USA. He slipped to 12 overall, grabbed by the Wild, to play with Fabers and Juracek in the future. That's going to be annoying to play against.
Yep.
One of those D-men who sees the ice so well. The play develops in front of him, and then he reacts to it. He's shifty, loves to jump in there on the rush, activate on the rush, really. And I think he's going to do very well in this tournament, again, due to his elusiveness, which is key, because this tournament, you see, it's a heavy forecheck tournament. It's very physical below the goal line, and I think that he's going to deal with that so well. It's just going to be easy for USA to break out of their zone because of him. 20 points in 18 games in Denver in the NCAA this year. He knows a thing or two about winning, which includes the gold medal last year, where he had the best plus-minus and the most goals by a D-man. He also won the NCAA championship with Denver, Rookie of the Year, All-Team Rookie, Best Offensive Defenseman, First All-Star Team. Seriously, the accolades, I could sit here and read more of them, and this podcast will be 4 hours. Gold medal in the U18s 2 years ago. I mean, all he knows is winning, and he is going to be a horse on the back end for them.
Yes, and here's a theme that I'm going to be starting right now, but it will be present throughout my future picks for this episode. A guy with a chip on his shoulder, Case. I wanted to talk about Zeev Boyum, and then, you kind of indicated to me that you were going to pick him, so I went in a different direction. But Zeev is going to be a guy this year who has a chip on his shoulder to prove that he isn't the 6th best defenseman from his previous draft. He might be the best defenseman. So I wanted to get into that. So he was the 6th D taken in that draft in 2024, behind Lev Shinov, who went number 2.
Yeah.
Yakimchuk, 7th. Parekh, 9th. Silyaev, 10th. And Dickinson, 11th. So
3 of those guys, two are not in this tournament.
Exactly.
2 of them not chosen, 1 of them not allowed.
Exactly.
That's wild.
So here's the thing: Lev Shinov, Belarusian, won't be playing.
Sorry, 4. Like that. Add another one. Not allowed.
I wrote it down. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to just?
This is my show, bud.
Spitball. Okay, Lev Shinov, Belarusian. Yes, he can't play. He won't be there. Yakimchuk didn't get invited.
That's crazy.
Play.
That is crazy.
That is pretty wild.
He almost made the Senators.
Yeah. Didn't get invited.
Playoff team.
Originally didn't get invited as well.
Yeah.
Eventually got invited.
Because of injuries.
Got cut. Silyaev, Russian, can't play. Dickinson made Team Canada.
Yes.
So really, Boyum's going to have to go out there and prove that he's better than Dickinson, which I think we can probably agree that he is. Well, I mean, we'll have to see. He's a dynamic player by all accounts, and I'm really excited to see what he has to do. So good pick, Case.
Yeah, no, great pick for sure. And again, I don't have too much to add on Boyum, but again, just what a steal for the Minnesota Wild. And Gotta hand it to Billy Guerin, man. Like, just focusing on the Wild and their prospect pool, especially on the back end. Like, with the way they've been this year, like, they're looking like a contender early on here. We'll see, because Minnesota hasn't won a playoff round in a long time. But with the draft picks that they've been able to get to, like Boyum and company, this thing could be sustainable for a long time, and he's a big part of that, and a big part of the future on their back end, now including David Jiricek. So there you go, great pick.
I love what they've done. Every move that they've made, essentially after the 2 lazy buyouts, I've really loved.
Yes.
I hate that I like the Minnesota Wild.
Yes.
They
were the most boring mid team for a decade, and now they're making moves. They're gonna clear cap space. I really love what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Cory and I were talking about this actually a couple weeks ago. I think we should do a full episode on the Minnesota Wild, because they have completely turned the ship around.
I'll try to reach out to Michael Russo and
we'll just do a featured film, and I'll get involved with Christopher Nolan or something.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Boyum, great pick for the United States.
Okay, we talked about him. Here's my pick, James Hagens. He's the projected first overall pick in this upcoming draft. I put $20 on him to go first overall. I'm getting value there because he is still ranked number 1 on everyone's list except for maybe 2 or 3. I think Bukala on Sportsnet is the one list that doesn't have him ranked at number 1.
Abrams on BITB.
Okay, yeah. So
nice.
The boys in the booth, Abrams draft has him at number 6. But yeah, I think James Hagens is going to be an impactful player this year as a draft eligible player. Let's see what he can do. Prove it. That's, we're at a stage. I love picking young guys or guys who have something to prove. Going back years ago, maybe it was a Cole Iserman who I'm looking at on the screen here, who had something to prove. But this year it's James Hagens. He's having a good season. 5, 15, and 20 in 16 games at BC. Second on his team, only behind Gabe Perreault, who was a Rangers pick. And he's 15th in the league right now in scoring. So as a draft eligible player, that's pretty damn good. The NCAA is no joke, and I think Hagens is going to have a great tournament.
Yeah, here's where I have to hate on an 18-year-old because I put $20 on someone else. No, I mean, I have him at 2 overall, and mostly the reason why I have him at 2 and not 1 is positives from our tone, but also the case that he's a passer, Hagens. He's a slightly undersized center, and I feel like he's benefiting from playing on a very strong NCAA team where he can pass the puck and get assists. He's not putting the puck in the net. He's getting that first primary assist for the most part. But
Gabe Perreault ain't bad.
Yeah, exactly. But this guy is gifted offensively. Just very talented. Another cerebral tactician.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, no, it's
a
good.
Great way to describe a player.
He's probably going to be, the second line center on this team. I have to imagine that Ryan Leonard's ahead of him because he was a horse for them last year, so he's got to be the first center. But Hagens is going to be paired with a weapon, and he is going to look very good with the puck. He's going to control the play down below the circles, and yeah, you're going to see him on the score sheet.
Yeah, totally.
Well, from everything that I've seen in terms of the scouting reports on James Hagens is that he kind of plays a game like Jack Hughes. So it's a good thing you got your Devil sweater on, and also he'll be a high pick in what is considered a weak draft. Just like we were saying when the 2019 NHL draft rolled around and Jack Hughes went number 1 overall. So not saying that Hagens is going to be exactly like him, but there are similarities just in the way that he moves around the ice and the way that he makes plays and all of that. So that's a good sign. He'll be a high pick regardless if it's 1, 2, 3, whatever. And that's a good thing. So Hagens should have a good tournament and be impactful for a strong U.S. team.
If he's the Jack Hughes in this, that makes Martone the Capo Caco, and now I just
reverse the pick.
I hate
reverse the pick.
Just take my money.
Take it back.
Jeez.
Redo.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh, awesome. Well, Case, you mentioned him a minute ago, but I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit for a player to watch on this roster, and that's Ryan Leonard, the captain of Team USA. 19 points in 16 games with Boston College this season. And Chad, you mentioned Jason Bukala of Sportsnet, used to be in the scouting department with the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, he has Hagen's at 4, by the way.
Okay. Jeez.
Everyone else has him at 1. He has him at 4.
But he describes Ryan Leonard as a bulldog, and that's exactly what he is. Like he can play any game you want him to play. Like he's a big guy. He can play that physical, hard-nosed playoff type game. He can also give you those highlight reel plays. We've seen a few of them already this year with him at Boston College. I mean, the Washington Capitals, a team that I'm gonna give some love to with some of my picks here. Spoiler alert in this tournament, but man, like Brian McClellan and Chris Patrick and everybody there has just got to be licking their lips, like saying, how can we get this kid here like today? And I just picture a scenario, this kid playing on the same line as Tom Wilson in the future for the Capitals. This kid can do it all. He can play any type of game. So it's gonna be fantastic to see Leonard
Harper
lead the way for the Americans this tournament.
Such a closet Capitals fan. It's unbelievable.
He loves the Capitals. He loves the Leafs. He hates the Penguins,
and he hates the Sabres.
Sabres officially lost tonight.
Yeah.
So that's 12 straight. Okay.
Ryan Leonard was.
He owns the Sabres.
Oh, Ryan Leonard was
too. Chunk, I'm gonna need a beer at this point.
Ryan Leonard was absolutely my backup pick here because he was so good for them last year. He is already emerging as an absolute steal in that draft.
Yes.
And the points he's put up in the NCAA is ridiculous, like stuff I haven't seen before. And he really does play a way that stands out in this tournament with that grit and that drive and that dog in him, which all of these guys have a dog in them, but it's different. They're all talented skill players. Well, he plays with grit. It's like a Cutter Gauthier type player, if you want to recall someone recent for the US team, and that's what I see in him, and he'll be a top 3 player for this team at the end.
Yeah, Leonard was a guy that a lot of Canadians fans wanted. Montreal Canadiens, that is, at the draft. Like, that was a player that they were really targeting, and they went a different direction. But I mean, great production last year in the NCAA. Looking at it this year, like, a bit of a dip. You expect that to get a bit better?
Which I was kind of surprised to see, honestly.
The team has taken, has lost some guys.
That's true. That's true.
And so, like, obviously the production doesn't tell the full story. Just something I noticed here, but...
You might have heard of a guy that lost.
At BC. Oh, God. Fill me in. Who?
Well, now you have me scared. Was Macklin Celebrini?
No, be you.
Oh, sorry, Boston fans.
Come on. Boston fans. And you know what? Ryan Whitney would be very mad at you for that one. But
sorry, I just imagined Celebrini was on Boston College because, they won.
Yeah.
Anyway, he'll be leading the way up front for the U.S. The Bulldog, Ryan Leonard.
God.
Okay, let's move on to Team Finland now. Players to watch. Case.
This is a team that I thought looked a little weaker than the past few seasons.
Agreed.
So it was a bit of a toss-up who I was going to take here, but Jesse Kiskinen stood out to me. He's a winger with a cannon of a shot. Look out for him in Ovi's spot on the power play. He's a right-handed player who I watched a highlight reel of him, and I think 40% of his goals were him standing at the dot and ripping one-timers on the power play. So that's where you can expect him in this tournament. He has an interesting story. That's another reason why I grabbed him. The interesting story is that he was originally drafted by Nashville in the 3rd round in 2023. He was then traded this year at the draft for a 2nd round pick and to Detroit for Canadian defenseman Andrew Gibson. So I'd imagine he has a bit of a bone to pick in Chad's theme with not only Nashville, but also Andrew Gibson and Team Canada, which could be something to watch in the same group. Look for him on the forecheck, throwing bodies and ripping clap bombs at the dot. 8 goals, 22 points, 26 games in La Liga, showing a major improvement from last year. I think that Nashville could be regretting this trade at the moment. He had a soft season last year, but this year he's really improved. I think Gibson's taken a little bit of a step back, although he made Team Canada, so obviously people see something. It must be the defensive side of things. So a little bit of a story to watch there. Kiskanen's my guy.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick, and it's one of the players on this team who has experience playing in the Liga, which, playing against men is obviously really important. And you come into this tournament and you're more prepared physically than a lot of the other players who might play in the CHL or what have you. So I think playing in the Liga is impressive, and he has that experience. So I think it's a good pick. He will be a player who's relied on. He's having a pretty damn good year too, playing pro. Yeah. And being a 3rd rounder, that whole trade situation, having a bit of a chip on his shoulder, I could see him having a good tournament. I'm going to pick a guy in a similar position in terms of similar age, also playing in the Liga, but the difference is he was never drafted. I'm going to go with Topias Heinonen, and you can see on the screen right above here, 24 points in 32 games playing in the Liga for Jokerit. And listen, this is a guy who was passed over in the draft twice, if I'm not mistaken, because he is a 2005 born player. So passed over in the draft at least once, maybe twice. We'll have to double check that. But is climbing the ranks this year as an overage player who is expected to be drafted relatively high. So that happens every now and then, right? You get passed up, you have a good season after the fact, and then you get picked. Like a famous example, one that I can think of, is Sean Dursey for the Maple Leafs. He was passed his first year. Maple Leafs picked him. I believe he was a 2nd rounder in that year, and then all of a sudden he's quarterbacking Utah's power play, and he's a legit player in the NHL. So these stories happen all the time, and I think Heinonen could be one of those guys. So 19-year-old, having a good year, playing pro in the Liga, he's my player to watch.
Another one of those stories is Ilya Nabokov. Do yourself a favor, look up his elite prospects. That guy's a freak. Maybe the next Shesterkin. I'd love to talk about him on another episode.
Wait, so not the Ilya Nabokov, but a fresh Ilya Nabokov?
No, Evgeny Nabokov.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's where
Holy, for someone who's a goalie, big goalie guy over here, Jesus.
That's where
No, Ilya Nabokov, who won the Gagarin Cup last year as a rookie goaltender with a 9.27.
It's just Ilya Samsonov, Ilya Sorokin.
Anyways, this pick, Chad, perfectly in line with the theme of tonight, which is bones to pick and the underdog story, which Brockville loves. We'll get to that later.
Oh, yes.
No, this is a great pick. Another La Liga guy with lots of production, more production than Kiskinen, and you can expect both these guys to be on the power play and kind of you'll be hearing their name on the broadcast.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that this isn't something that I'm making up as in he's expected to be drafted as an overager. There are plenty of real hockey people out there saying that he's been climbing the ranks in terms of this upcoming draft as a guy who teams are legitimately looking at as an overager to draft. So I just wanted to put that out there. This happens a lot. It's not that novel, And this is a player who is definitely on the radar.
Well, and you know, talking about a guy like Heinonen, it's really important, especially for contending teams in the National Hockey League, to find those hidden gems who are overagers late in the draft or undrafted free agents, etc. So this kid, I could see him being a nice pick for an NHL organization late in this year's draft.
He's not only playing for his country in this tournament, he's playing for his career. Like to get drafted here, it's going to mean a lot for him.
That's a good point.
Totally. Another overager going next door to Finland is Dennis Hildeby, goalie now for the Maple Leafs.
Yep.
Playing games for the Maple Leafs, won an SHL title, drafted, I think he was a third rounder for the Maple Leafs, and is playing games like almost right away.
Doesn't know Nabokov, but he's got Dennis Hildeby.
Oh God, I know.
Active player, I know.
Listen, that's my bad. And you know what? I actually just watched this like 45-minute YouTube video on the history of the San Jose Sharks core. Like you remember the core of like Joe Thornton and Pavelski and Marlowe and etc. Right, like Brent Burns. And so I just watched.
We both have said dumb things about San Jose Sharks players tonight.
What did you? Oh, the
celebrating.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever. I'm sure this liquid courage isn't helping for that kind of stuff. But
Anyway, continuing with Team Finland, and I've got a guy who's already been drafted relatively high, and he's a prospect for the Buffalo Sabres because they need to be talked about in a positive light right now, as we know. Anyway, so Konsta Helenius is my pick. Sabres first rounder, 16 points in 26 games with Rochester in the American Hockey League. Thank God that organization is good with the Sabres. Anyway, really good production in his first AHL season. Sabres just got to make sure they don't rush him to the NHL. Anyway, okay, I'm done. Anyway,
hold on, one more point. They lost to Matt Murray tonight. First win in 2 years.
Yeah,
go on.
Okay. Anyway. Helenius, really good player, just a really energetic forward who's always moving around the ice. Like, you'll see highlights of him in the offensive zone, and he's just always circling with the puck, looking for options, using his feet. Just a really energetic forward, can play at both ends of the ice, and on what I agree is kind of a weaker-looking Finnish roster compared to recent years, as you guys have alluded to. Helenius is going to have to carry the mail up front with a few other guys for this Finnish team, and he can play center or wing. He's a right shot. I would expect him to be their number one center on this team in this tournament. So yeah, going with Konsta Helenius of the Buffalo Sabres.
Every year when I do the prep for this episode, I find like a guy or two that I am all over, and I'm like, oh, this is my guy to watch. I start like watching highlights and doing some research, and then I go, drafted by the Buffalo Sabres or drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I'm not going to touch them with a 10-foot pole. This is where I was going to go for my player to watch, but I had to let Harper grab him because he really is that guy for this team and has been for Finland at like every stage so far. Incoming world championship in the future for this guy because they love him at the international level. They love him in Rochester. It's so much so that they brought a European over at 18 in the AHL. That doesn't happen very often, especially coming from La Liga. He could have stayed there. Yep. So there's a lot to be said about that. He does have a bit of an engine, and we love that in the World Junior Championship. And yeah, he'll be the guy they lean on. He's the one I wanted to take, but he's a Buffalo boy.
He kind of, just with his motor and his engine, the way he moves around the ice, like I kind of look at him as like Logan Cooley a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, similar kind of players.
Yeah, he'll be one of their go-to guys offensively for sure. And Case, great point. Like the fact that he's playing in Rochester right now is so important, I think, for the Sabres. Like getting a guy who was playing in the Liga and had a good season last year, by the way. 36 points in 51 games for Jokerit. And to come over to the AHL, he's got 17 and 27. You'd like that to be a little bit better. I think he was 14th overall, but still, it's important to have him in North America, getting that experience on the ice here. He's going to be a great player to watch at this tournament.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, Harp, but Rochester, good team year in and year out.
They are
competitive team for the Calder every single season.
Yep.
So 17 points in 27 games for an 18-year-old on a very good AHL team isn't something to scoff at. He's probably getting sheltered a little bit. So, getting that much playing time, that many points, that's saying something on a team like Rochester. Now, if he was in Utica, it wouldn't be as impressive.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. You're right. He's still super young. Yeah. But I'm saying it's really important that he's playing. In North America. Right now.
No, it is absolutely. Let's move on to Team Germany. And, little Brockville connection here because we obviously had the game tonight between Latvia and Czechia, the pre-tournament game. And that was for the first time since 2009 when Latvia was here to play Germany. So we'll go into Germany now. And,
that was a stretch, but
a roadmap.
Sitting on this couch beside you was the puck boy for Team Germany when they were in Brockville. That was me.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I was on the bench for Team Germany when they played in Brockville way back in the day.
That's cool.
So there was a connection there, and I'm going to jump right into this.
Yep.
Not a ton to say about some of the guys on this team. I have to expect will stay in the tournament and will look even better next year. They're bringing a young team to this year's tournament. So if they can hold on, next season will look even better for them. But I'm going to take David Lewandowski, Robert's son. Just kidding. Not even the same sport. But he is a 17-year-old on this team who I think is going to stand out this year, let alone next season in this tournament. He currently he started the season in the Dell and then made the trip overseas after 7 games to join Saskatoon in the WHL. It took him a few games to kind of get his feet under him in a new league, new ice surface, but he has looked very good in the WHL since. 7 goals, 8 assists in 20 games. I've read that his play in the Hlinka Gretzky Cup has caught some eyes and has him as high as the second round this draft. So a lot of attention on him. I think that there's going to be a lot of scouts in the stands for David Lewandowski, and it's all on him to step up.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at some of the projections right now for this upcoming draft, as high as 64 by Draft Prospects Hockey. So, could definitely be a player to watch. Listen, Case, going back to that connection that you made being the puck boy for Team Germany, I just want to say, I wish I got to experience stuff like that. Being a goalie, you're not going to be thrown in your gear to be able to do that, which kind of sucked. But I noticed tonight, did you notice?
The flag boy
had a goalie helmet on.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, that would have been nice.
Liam Packenham.
Yeah. Okay. Should maybe not.
Redacted.
Be throwing names out there, but yeah, I think that's a good pick, Case. I really do. You look at players who are playing on some of these teams who, listen, aren't expected to be world-beating teams, and you look at guys who are either playing pro, either playing in the Dell, for example, or playing in North America, and I think both of those are very important for success in this tournament. And you picking Lewandowski, playing in the WHL, I think that's important. I'm going to go a similar route, and I'm going to pick Julius Sumpf, who is playing in the QMJHL for the Moncton Wildcats. 37 points in 29 games played.
Jeez.
That's pretty good stat line.
Yep.
Not going to lie. And I just think he'll be one of the guys that's relied on for Team Germany going forward to score. So that's my pick. It's tough to go with like there aren't many drafted players on some of these lesser teams, right? So we're kind of making a stretch a little bit and looking for some players that will be interesting to watch. But I had to go with a guy who's been playing in the queue for a couple of years now, and that's why I'm going with Sumpf.
I mean, Germany's had a lot of really good players drafted in the last 5 years, and they really are growing quite the program there, and a lot of heroes coming up in this tournament for them lately. Florian Elias is a guy who stood out to me the last 2 World Juniors.
Yeah.
Last year, scoring a goal that saved them from relegation and kept them in the tournament this season. Julius Sumpf, and a guy playing in North America and playing kind of this all-around player that he is. I think that he could be one of those Florian Elias types for Germany who scores a big goal. As you can see, 16 in the QMJHL, not to scoff at.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a guy for them.
Well,
the guy.
And like, listen, for Germany, it's not like they don't have good players. It just seems like they either have the best player coming through or guys, right? And so they're trying to fill that in. They're trying to fill in the middle, and that's why I think a guy like Sumpf could be a player going forward that's really important for the trajectory of their program.
And that's why I picked Lewandowski, because he's a second, third round talent. He's not that he's not that Peterka Stutzla type.
Draisaitl.
Going back a little while for him, but
still.
Exactly.
Yeah, like this roster, it's a mix of like overagers who are draft eligible still, guys who are just going into their draft eligibility, and guys who were like late round picks to NHL teams, basically. But still, I mean, some important players on this roster, and a guy who I think could be a nice late round pick for an NHL team in this upcoming draft. 19-year-old defenseman Paul Mayer for Germany. Trying to remember back to last year if I picked this guy. I don't know. It was a name that was familiar to me. I maybe did have to go back and listen to it. But anyway, just one of those guys who is obviously going to be a vet in this tournament, which is important for a team like Germany, especially big mobile D-man who can play at both ends, but more comfortable in the defensive zone, and again should be a nice late round pick for an NHL team in the 2025 draft. So going with Paul Mayer to play some big minutes for Team Germany. By the way, a shout out to another defenseman on this German team. Yes, he is on the list. Rio Kaiser, 6'7" defenseman.
Oh, boy.
I recognize the name from Chell. I had to mention it.
207 as well. He's got 6 or 7 inches on him.
He's a big boy, and so
there's so many GMs in the NHL who just felt a cold breeze on their neck when Harper said that.
Yeah, Brad Living is going to take this guy in the first round, probably. Harp, I'm surprised you didn't mention Norwin Panocha.
Well, we can't go with all Sabres in this episode, right, Chad? So
that's right. Playing for Green Bay in the USHL. Defenseman drafted in the 7th round by the Sabres.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But anyway, we're going with Paul Mayer. Big mobile D-man.
I'm fairly certain you picked him last year. Not only
that's what I'm saying.
His name ring a bell, and in this setting, but this player reeks of Harper Cody.
Totally.
And I can see it. They're going to have to rely on a 19-year-old with pro experience to log minutes on the blue line.
Certainly.
And that's such a key aspect, on every hockey team, but in the World Juniors, it often comes down to these defenders who step up for these bottom tier tables or bottom table teams.
Yep.
And those are the guys who stand out. There was one on Latvia tonight. For me, number 25, I would have to look up what his name was.
Harp's got his physical notes here from calling the game.
Yeah, they didn't call, or I think it was
25, Christ Retinus.
That's right. They didn't have names on their jerseys, so I had a hard time tonight. But man, he was soaking shots all night and playing all of the defensive minutes. So that's a Paul Mayer type right there. And Mayer's going to be important for Germany.
Okay, are we getting into Team Latvia now to round out Group A here?
Yeah, what do we want to do? Do we want to go into
I think we should talk about the game we were just at last as a package.
Yes, I was going to say Latvia, and then we can get into Czech, who's in Tier B, and then, whatever it is.
So,
I don't know. Group B.
Group B. Yeah, nice. So, players to watch on Latvia now?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I want to start by saying that the funniest thing happened when we were watching the game here. In case I talked about it while
something I did.
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you were you were caught on a hot mic.
Yes, that is true.
And we heard you over the PA. And Case and I looked at each other like.
He said, "I'm going to switch my fandom to the Washington Capitals,
to the Maple Leafs and Matt Murray, who beat the 0-12 Sabres."
Get off of this.
Anyway. The funniest thing happened. So we're watching the game, and I don't know. At this point, I think it's like 4-0, 4-1 for Czechia, and Latvia scores. So I guess it would have been 4-0. Latvia scores, makes it 4-1, something like that. The crowd erupts. It was the craziest thing. It's like the fandom in Brockville is like they just root for the underdog. It's like, hey, that's me. Like,
Brockville loves an underdog.
It was the funniest thing, man.
Two things. One, because Latvia was there in 2009.
I know.
And two, you want to see a close game as well.
I know, but
that's funny you bring that up though, because I noticed the same thing being down at ice level in between the penalty boxes.
But listen, you look around and it's like, aside from 15% of the crowd,
right?
Everyone else is from Brockville, right?
Oh yeah,
with no allegiance to either team because they're Canadian, and it's
true.
When the underdog scores, the crowd erupted.
It was so funny. We looked at each other immediately.
That was great.
I'm like, wow, they love the underdog.
Just lunchbox hockey.
I cheer. Czechia is usually my number 2 team in this tournament. If Canada's not involved, I'm rooting for Czechia, and I cheered when Latvia scored. I'm like, man, I'm rooted in Brockville.
It was awesome.
That was awesome. That's a good thing to bring up for sure.
Before we move on here, in case you're right, Hart did take a Meyer. He was on Team Switzerland.
An Oscar Meyer, maybe.
Good. We do have to give Chunk a shout out here for a second. He's obviously hanging out down here with us tonight, and one of the most loyal listeners that we have. So. The most. That's right.
I mean, he hasn't spent as much money on the store as Adam James. But
that's right.
The most loyal listener that isn't on Patreon.
Which, by the way, we should get that back up and running.
I was gonna say, do we still have that?
We got to make a buck here. But
anyway, Chunk, it's great to have you here, bro. And good call, because I knew there was something there. Anyway. Yeah, of course.
It might have been Oscar Meyer. I remember that was a name. That was an actual name.
It's a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
We thought it was funny. So.
Okay, so players to watch for Latvia. Case, let's get into this.
Yeah, so I did a bunch of research on all these players before to pick my player to watch, but I wanted to wait for the game to pick Latvia and Czechia. I want to see who stood out to me in the game, and a guy who stood out for me was Bruno Osmanis, number 19 for Latvia. He seemed to be in the thick of it always. Relentless on the forecheck. He was one of the few on Latvia who seemed to give like any sort of pressure or discomfort to the Czech defense. The offense went through him and maybe 3 others on Latvia. He had an engine, and I can see why he got the call up to the Allsvenskan this year, where he's been producing. It's interesting. You don't often see the Latvian players go to Sweden, so that stood out to me. But watching this game, he was a standout player, just kind of in the thick of it always. So he's my guy.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pick, and it is a bit interesting going to Sweden from Latvia. Like, you don't see that very often, so that's a good pick. My pick originally was going to be Daryls Oljanskis, the youngest player on the team last year, 7th rounder to Anaheim, playing in the J20 this year, 21 points in 27 games as a defenseman. Once cast as a two-way defenseman, now playing more offensively. That's who I was going to go with. However, after watching the game, Case and I were stricken by one player, and that was number 24, Daniels Sirkins.
Blocked like 6 shots or something.
Blocking shots, but also what Case and I noticed was he was just relentless on the forecheck, Daniel Sirkins. So he was
water bug. That was the word
he
we
was
used.
An absolute water bug. A young player on this team, just a 17-year-old. He was the smallest player on the ice by at least 4 inches. Like, he was the shortest player on the ice. Let's see what he's listed at. 5'9". There is not a chance. After just watching
Hard to believe he's 5'9".
After just watching him in person, there is not a chance that he's taller than 5'5".
If he's 5'9", everyone else on the ice tonight was 5'11".
Yeah, if he's 5'9", Nate Gagnon is 6 feet. And shout out to Nate.
And was he ever slippery?
Yeah.
Like, just weaving through the players below the goal line to get to the puck first every single time.
I wanted to pick him.
Yes. The forecheck tonight was relentless. Like, he was the smallest guy on the ice, and he was getting to pucks first and using his size or lack thereof to his benefit, similar to a guy like Connor Garland in my mind, who's kind of slippery out front of the net, where he's able to get open. And, like, listen, watching this guy tonight, he stood out for all the right reasons. Daniels Sirkins, that's my guy to watch going forward. Just watch him on the forecheck. It's incredible.
Yeah, he was really good tonight, and again, what stood out to me was the shot blocking. Like, early in the game to get his team going, blocked at least 2 or 3 in one sequence when Czechia had them hemmed in the beginning of the game, and then even though Latvia lost that game, you have to give them a lot of credit because the shots were 10-10 in the second period. Just a note there, and because I had to go into the pronunciation so much because I was on the PA tonight.
Oh, did I say it wrong?
Haris Sianskis, or no, that wasn't the guy. Daryls Ulyanskis.
Okay,
was the guy. But some of them are just wild, man. Like number 5, one of the forwards for Latvia, Antons Matsievskis.
Yeah,
like just crazy. But anyway, going into the game, the guy who I was going to pick. Again, surprise, Capitals prospect, Eric Smatejko. But I didn't think. Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he got into some penalty trouble a little bit in the game as well. So I was going to go with him, but I'll go with one of the goaltenders. I thought that Axel's Wazuls, even though it's spelled Ozzols, yeah.
Was he the first goalie tonight? Or
no, he came in relief of the first goalie, which was Giannis Fetzers. Okay. But I did think that Wazuls, once he got settled into the game, was pretty good for Latvia.
Well, unfortunately, he was tossed an absolute grenade when he came into the game because they scored on their first shot, and it really wasn't a shot. It was one player on Czechia walking 4 guys, peeling out front of the net and tucking it in. It was a disgusting goal.
It was a real nice goal. And Chad actually said that, sitting beside me, he goes, "Welcome to the game, goalie."
Because what are you supposed to do in that situation?
Yeah.
So that's
but he did look really good.
He did. Like, once he got settled in, once he got his legs under him and was able to take a breath, he's a 19-year-old, and so he's, going to have to be an important part of this Latvia team, playing for Charlottetown in the QMJHL, and he's gotten a lot of reps. Not the greatest numbers, 10, 13, and 3 so far this season, but again,
well, so that was actually last year. These numbers.
Oh, that was last year. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, looking at his hockey DB here. And
now playing in Latvia.
Yeah.
Latvia
okay. Well, much better numbers. Okay, that's a lot better. All right.
But who knows the competition in the Latvian?
But I'll tell you, we stood behind the goalie. The way the rink is set up in the Memorial Center, there's a walkway behind one of the goaltenders, and we were standing in line for the canteen because we had to fill our face with the poutine. But so we were standing behind the goalie, and we're like, man, in this small barn, it is hard to track. Like they're fast. The puck is getting absolutely snapped around by Czechia. So I feel for him, but I think he handled it pretty well in a small barn. He looked good.
I said the case, like, I can't even imagine how many goals would be in against me playing in one of these World Junior games. Like, watching from eye level how quickly these 17, 18, 19-year-olds move, and like how big they are, how quick they snap it around. It's like, it's night and day. Like, hockey's gotten so much better. Like, it's crazy.
Man, it really has. And like, I really noticed it tonight, being at ice level between the boxes for the game. And first of all, the biggest thing that sticks out to me before these guys get on the ice and get going is the size of these kids. And then you see them start playing and how fast it is and everything. And I gotta say, like, I'm glad I wasn't up top trying to do play-by-play tonight and trying to keep up with it and all the names and everything. So it worked out well. It was great. And we'll be talking about Team Czechia here shortly.
Yeah, just quickly, a couple honorable mentions for Latvia, guys that stood out to me in this game. I said that the offense went through 3 players. The other 2 was Dovis Livšis, number 7 of the team. It seemed like he was kind of the go-to on the power play for Latvia. He was real good. And the others being Haris Sianskis, number 10 on defense.
Yes.
He was their quarterback. That's actually Rebecca's player to watch.
Oh, she
of
chimed
Team
in.
Mafia.
Hey,
all right. Make sure to
nice
that
pronunciation
down.
too.
Haris Sianskis.
Yeah,
he really was the QB for this team.
He was good tonight. Yeah,
he broke a guy's ankles at center ice. I was like, woo! So a couple honorable mentions.
Paige asked me in the third period what teams were playing.
Nice.
and the lady behind me asked how many periods there were. So
what I'm hearing was Rebecca was dialed in.
She was dialed. She was taking notes,
picking out players to watch. Said I did a good job tonight, and then my response was, Chad, what did your girlfriend say tonight?
I said player to watch, and she goes, number 10 on Latvia. That guy's moving the puck. Like right away.
She actually listens to you.
Yep.
There you go.
And then
that's awesome.
Paige said she liked the Czechs better because they have better outfits.
Oh, outfits. Okay, that's what we're calling it.
I disagree.
She didn't like. Yeah. You know what? Kate might disagree.
Nice pads on the goaltender.
Totally.
Kavan.
Totally. Yeah. Kavan, who left the game after the second period.
That's right.
But yeah, the outfits were nice. I like the maroon, but it's a little stale for me. I do like the maroon color on Latvia.
Man, those jerseys are beautiful. I don't think they're stale at all.
I asked if the Czech jerseys were their pre-tournament jerseys.
Yes, but the colors.
I prefer the Latvian colors over and the jerseys over the. I feel like it's an unfair advantage to have the dark jerseys versus the visiting jerseys, even though Czechia was considered the home team.
You're talking to a guy who bought a white Canada jersey over here.
Yeah. Can I chime in here with a hot take?
Oh, he's chiming.
Oh, great.
Chad chimes.
Chime in here.
Oh, God.
Change the colors.
Yeah.
White jerseys are on the comeback. white jerseys have over the years been not in favor, right? Like ever since the lockout in 2005, we've gone to dark jerseys at home. But over the last little bit, as 90s nostalgia is coming back in pop culture, I think white jerseys are back.
You've been going to a lot of games at Coca-Cola Coliseum or something where the Marlies wear the white jerseys at home?
What a lukewarm take.
All American League jerseys are trash. I'm sorry to CCM, but they don't look good. But I'm telling you, like home jerseys, I'm not going to advocate for the fact that they should be white, but white jerseys I think are coming back. And that's why I went with the Team Canada one. That's why I went with the Seattle one that I got last year, maybe 2 years ago now. I think they're coming back. They strike a chord for me. And this is Jersey Talk Corner now, and I'm all for a nice, crisp white jersey.
I don't have time for this. Let's move on to
Okay, yeah, let's move on. Okay. That's Group A in the books. Let's move on to Group B.
Art, before we do, should we send it to an ad quick and then come back with Group B? How does that sound?
We can do that. We can pay some bills and then come back.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
We'll come back with Group B.
We interrupt this podcast to tell you about one of our favorite partners, Sign Up Expert. If you're a sports bettor, whether brand new, casual, or hardcore, listen very carefully because this ad is for you. Guys, line shopping for the best odds matters, and that's why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books to maximize their profits. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up, and we are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. When you use our link at signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth, you can get access to all of the top sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. Most importantly, all of these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users, and when you register through our link, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. Guys, it's simple. When you use multiple sportsbooks, you ensure that you can always access the best available odds, which is key to successful and profitable sports betting. So, if you want to take advantage of these incredible benefits and support our brand at the same time, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook through our link in the description below, signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. If you're planning on signing up for a new sportsbook anyways, you might as well use our link and support the boys. So, one more time, that's signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. This podcast is sponsored by SeatGeek, the absolute best ticket app out there. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals to tickets at your favorite sporting event. SeatGeek does this awesome thing where they score each ticket out of 10 based on its value, so you know whether you're getting a good or a bad deal. Last time I got tickets to see the Devils play, I first saw red tickets. I waited it out, monitored the price in-app, and once I saw green, I pulled the trigger. SeatGeek makes it that easy. And here's the best part. SeatGeek has completely hooked us up. Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code BOYSINTHEBOOTH in all caps. Click the link in our description to download the app, and remember to get your discounted tickets using the code BOYSINTHEBOOth in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek.
All right, boys, now that we've paid some bills, let's get back into it here, and we'll go into Group B. So starting with Czechia, one of the two teams that we saw tonight at the Brockville Memorial Center in the Czechia-Latvia pre-tournament game. Let's get into players to watch for Team Czechia, and it's kind of nice in this situation because we, just as we did with Latvia, we can talk about players that stood out in front of our own eyes. So let's get into this with Team Czechia.
Yeah, again, I wanted to watch the game and pick a player that stood out to me, had something different about him. I don't know what it was going to be. We have to mention that Eder Schale was not playing tonight, who probably will be their best player on this team.
Notably in the stands.
Yeah, notably like a couple sections over. But I watched this game. There might be a few players who had better games than this guy, but someone who stood out to me because of their presence, because of maybe an aura, is Adam Juracek. There was something about him every single time that he touched the puck. It was like the play slowed down for him, and then he moved the puck with a purpose right after. He could just read the play. He moved side to side, elusive. Like, the players can't touch him. I don't know if anyone got a hit on him all night when he had the puck. And he was impressive to me. I don't know if it was a flashy game necessarily, but he was QBing the PP. He was joining the rush, playing strong, getting the puck out of their zone. And honestly, he was just, I don't think I saw him make a mistake tonight. And that stands out in the World Juniors to me. You can be flashy and make mistakes, but there's the guys who just never make a mistake, who are just absolute anchors for their team, and that's Adam Juracek for me.
Yeah, and only 6 games played, rather, for Brantford this season. Is he recovering from injury? Because tonight he did not look like it. Like, he looked spry.
Well, he got injured at the World Juniors last year. And then...
He's been hurt since then?
I want to say so.
Because tonight he looked really good. Like,
rust wasn't there.
Yeah, like, there was no rust at all. I want to say, like, he was one of their best players, certainly one of their best defensemen. That's a good pick. Like, if he's anywhere close to what his brother projects to be, then he's going to be a hell of a defenseman, and had a great game tonight. That was one player who stood out to me. Another player on the back end who stood out to me was Wojtek Port, number 3 on the back end, drafted by the Anaheim Ducks. He looked good to me tonight. Just a guy who, like, Case, we kind of pointed it out from the get-go. Like, you said to me, this guy looks like an absolute meathead. Like, just a strong boy on the back end. But he had a good game. He was used in all situations. But for me, the player I am picking as a player to watch is Adam Zidlicki. Zidlicki had a really good game. This is a player to me, playing for the Brampton Steelheads, who just looks like a man out there. 26 points in 27 games in the OHL this season for Brampton. And again, like I said, he looked like a man among boys. Like, he was just physically, he was inserting himself into the game. Not an overly big player, standing at just 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, but playing above his weight class, and just looked like a man out there. So Adam Zidlicki is a player who I think this Czech team will be relying on to produce offense for sure.
So we've been stung in the past about family ties, and I looked at you during this game. I said, Marek Zidlicki?
Yeah, there you go.
Father Marek Zidlicki.
Nice.
100%. He not only like physically looked like a man, but played like a man out there.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned Bruno Osmanis earlier for Latvia, saying he was always in the thick of it, that was Zidlicki for Czechia. He was just always kind of in the play, always playing with a bit of an edge, which, you live and die by that sword in the World Juniors, but that could be something that is an important piece for a team like Czechia, who has that like top end talent, but needs the guys who are going to fill the gaps and kind of make a difference when the top line's not on.
Yeah,
and that could be Adam Zidlicki for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? I think this team is poised to be one of the better teams in the tournament, honestly. Like, Canada and USA, I think, stand above the rest, but then this team is pretty good. Team Sweden's pretty good. Like, you just look up and down the lineup. Like, there's some pretty good players. Adam Dzeko scored tonight. Another Blues draft pick. We were talking about Adam Juracek, Blues draft pick. Like, there are some good players in this team, Case.
First of all, call this team St. Louis.
Legit,
5 players on this team.
Yeah.
Adam Dzeko was my other guy, because that goal he scored was... talk about Adam Zidlicki looking like a man. That was manly.
Yeah.
The way he drove that crease. It was like, it was power play. You could feel it building. He picked up the puck at the point, worked around the boards, and then drove the crease, scored through, and that's when you were like, yeah, welcome to the game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was him.
Goal.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Yeah, Jacko had a good game. Honorable mention to Miroslav Holinka, Leafs pick. 5th rounder, I believe, last year. Didn't even realize he was a Leafs pick until we were watching the game and we were checking elite prospects. And by the way, Harp, I want to say, as someone who was involved in this whole process for the city, why were there no programs? Why were there no programs handed out to people?
It's a great
with
question.
Names and numbers of players playing tonight.
That's a great question, man. Obviously, something that I had no involvement in, but there definitely should have been.
Hard dishing the puck there. Real quick.
Yeah. Well, I'm pointing fingers and staring at you, Harp. So
I know you're.
So for the next time.
So now that Chad and I said 5 players off this list, Harp, let's hear what you.
Yeah. I talked about Paul Mayer for Germany, an undrafted defenseman in Group A, and for Group B for Czechia. A guy who really stood out to me tonight is another undrafted blue liner, and that is Tomáš Galvez. And I thought he looked pretty good. Like early on in the game, when Czechia was on the power play, small guy, but just so good at moving his feet. And
sorry, what number was he tonight? Just so
he was number 23.
Okay.
On Czechia. I thought he looked really good, just being able to walk the line, quick feet, quick crossovers, moving the puck efficiently, making good plays. I thought he really stood out. And so again, I think as an 18-year-old, he could be a really nice late round pick potentially for an NHL organization this upcoming draft. I thought from the beginning of the game onward, he really stood out for me on the back end with Czechia.
Yeah, Latvia seemed to, on the power play, work the play down low and kind of try to hit that bumper spot. Czechia was the top of the umbrella. And the top of the umbrella for them was either Galvas or Adam Juracek. And Galvas, he very early on in the game broke a guy's ankles at the top of the umbrella. That caught a reaction from the.
He is he looked shifty tonight,
and the crowd reacted.
And
to
we
that.
went,
we were like,
yeah.
He looked very good moving the puck at the top at the blue line. So certainly a player to watch.
Yeah,
absolutely. Next here, I guess we'll go with Team Sweden. And so let's go with the Swedes.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with David Edstrom, returning player from last year, first round pick for Nashville. He may not be the flashy guy on this team, like maybe a Otto Stenberg.
Otto Stenberg.
Stenberg. I kept trying to call him Svenberg. Stenberg. But he's the complete package. He has been relied on heavily by this team in the past at the all international levels, U17, U18, the World Juniors last year, the international levels. He was big for Frölunda in the playoffs last year and has improved his point totals again in the SHL this season. I expect him to be a key piece for them, playing penalty kill, playing power play, playing the tough minutes 5-on-5 against teams like Czechia and Slovakia. He's going to be very important to this team. He might not be the guy who stands out, ripping goals nonstop, but he's going to be so important.
Yeah, so the interesting thing with Edstrom is that
he's been traded twice.
This is a player who's been traded twice in the NHL without ever having played an NHL game.
Yeah.
So in March 2024, I've got it here. He's traded from Vegas, who drafted him 32nd overall in the first round 2023, to San Jose for Thomas Hertl, along with a first round pick. And some other picks were included in that trade as well. And then from the San Jose Sharks with Magnus Corona and a conditional first in the 2025 draft to Nashville, he was traded for Askarov and a third and another prospect in that deal. So he's been traded twice. He's never played a game in the NHL. It's an interesting scenario for this guy because you don't often see that. So there's two kind of sides to the coin. It's like the one side is, clearly teams are willing to part with this player because they maybe see something that isn't necessarily up to par or what they thought they were getting in this player. But then the other side of the coin is other teams are willing to acquire this player, and they have some real interest. They see some real upside in this player. So it's an interesting scenario.
I have thought about this, and yes, teams are willing to trade him, but look what they got. They got Tomáš Hertl.
Yes.
And they got a top prospect goalie and picks to a team that really needs picks and needs to do the rebuilding and needs, building from goaltending. Usually you build from back end or center, but goalie is important too. So Askarov makes a ton of sense in San Jose, whereas they have some centers in San Jose. Listen, Celebrini, Eklund, but it just. I understand, there is that side of guys they're willing to move on from Edstrom, but they've gotten value for him, and they see the value in this player.
That is a good point. Yeah,
center, two-way
for sure, and a part of what is being considered as a very strong draft, the Bedard draft, right, exactly, in 2023. So if, to your point, Case, if you're Edstrom, give yourself a pat on the back, being like, I've been traded twice, but I've been involved in 2 high-profile deals.
Right, but that's why I bring up both sides of the coin, right? Because as a player, you can interpret it either way. You can think, why why have I been traded twice? Like, am I not valued where I am? Or you can look at it where it's like, other teams really want me.
or he's got some bones to pick, as we've mentioned.
That's true. Right. And that's the theme throughout this episode. So that's a really good pick. Really looking forward to watching him play. There's so many good players on this team. Like, I think Sweden is, if they're not the third best team in this tournament, they're certainly fourth. But I would probably put them at number 3. David Edstrom's a good pick. Axel Sandin-Pellikka is the captain of this team. This is a guy who I thought about picking. I've picked him in the past. He was a high pick. I won't go in that direction.
I didn't touch him with a 10-foot pole because I assumed you'd take him because you love that guy.
But I'm not. I really do. He has all the tools. Same with a guy like Tom Willander. I remember Craig Button last year on the podcast talking about how much he loved Tom Willander and the way that he plays. Vancouver pick there, by the way. But I'm going to go with a guy whose brother we recently talked about just now, and that's Victor Eklund.
See, I knew you were going to go with Eklund
because I was on the hype train for William Eklund originally when he was first drafted. I want to say 2021 was his year, 2022 maybe. One of those.
It would
years.
have been 2021, I think.
One of those years anyway. Yeah. But Victor Eklund, the brother of William, who plays on San Jose. By the way, having a great year. 6 goals, 20 assists, 26 points in 34 games as a 22-year-old. And I have it here. 2021, 7th overall.
Nice.
So Victor Eklund is the only 2006 draft-eligible player on this Team Sweden this year. And he's projected to go, by all accounts, in the top 10.
Yep.
He's playing in the Allsvenskan. He has just 15 points in 24 games for Djurgårdens, but clearly there's more offense there. I think he's touted as more of an offensive guy. I know he's a bit of a two-way guy as well, but I think there's more offense to untap there, especially considering he's playing in the Allsvenskan and not the SHL. That's a tier 2 in Sweden, the Allsvenskan. So he's my player to watch. I think if he's able to follow in his brother's footsteps and be an impactful player, really almost right away in the NHL, like after only 1 or 2 seasons, like I think he'll have teams lining up to draft him. So as a young player, I think he's going to be a guy to watch for me on Team Sweden.
Yeah, and you talk about the flip sides of coins. Well, he can see this as I've had a underwhelming year and my top 10 projection could slide.
Yep.
Or he could see this as a chance to really, live up to his name from his brother, but also his projections in this draft and kind of show up for Sweden. He's been talked about a lot about his skill. And it's always tough when you have to live up to a name.
Yes.
But I think that...
But it's not like his brother is Yari Curry. Like, his brother is legit, but he's still young, right? Like
his brother's like the third best player in San Jose right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which could be anyone.
Well, it's like Mikhail Granlund, who is incredible, and then it's like probably the rookie.
Okay, so we had the same two in the.
Yeah,
look at that.
Good for us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's got. This is an important tournament for Eklund, and he's going to live up to it.
Yeah. And by the way, I guess I shouldn't say the rookie, knowing like there's like several good rookies on San Jose. I meant Celebrini.
Yeah.
But
we got that.
I meant I was trying to play it up a bit as the rookie, but
Did you watch that baseball movie the other night or something?
Of course I've watched The Rookie.
It's a good
Not
one.
the other night, but of course.
Nice. For Team Sweden, I'll go with, again, similar to like the Mayer pick with Germany, like just a big defenseman who I think can make an impact on this team. I'll go with Axel Hurtig, a Calgary 7th rounder in 2023, plus 22 rating in 22 games with the Calgary Hitmen. So some good numbers there, and just described as a big, towering D-man who makes it difficult for the forwards of the opposition on the ice. So I think he's going to have an impact on this team. And obviously, like, you look at that blue line and like Sandin Pellikka and guys of that nature are getting a lot of the oxygen. But I think you have a big 6'5" D-man like Hurtig, who could be a real player for the Calgary Flames in there. And again, the biggest defenseman out of the group for Team Sweden. Obviously, again, Sandin Pellikka, Willander, Lindstein, those guys are getting a lot of the oxygen. I think Hurtig has the potential, with his size and his capabilities, could play a big role on the blue line for the Sweden team. So that's who I'm going with.
It's funny that I feel like we all wanted to avoid the Stenbergs and the Sandin Pellikkas because we thought each other would talk about them. But I get the appeal to Hurtig, and I know that Harper loves a big defenseman. But it's so important in this tournament. There's two types of defensemen who stand out in this tournament. There's the one who snaps the puck around on the power play, and the one who plays the real minutes, the tough minutes. And I think that Sweden's going to look for Victor Hurtig. That's a Devils prospect. Axel Hurtig, they're going to look to rely on him to, lay the body on the top forwards of every team in their group. Like, it's so important to wear down the opposition, especially in a tournament that spans a couple weeks. These guys are invaluable.
Totally. And just because you're 7th round pick doesn't mean you're not going to be impactful at this tournament. So
exactly.
And it's interesting just looking at this team, from afar, from a glance here, and it's like a lot of these players are playing in the SHL or the AHL. There's at least one player, or the USHL or the Allsvenskan, and it's like these are pro hockey players on this Team Sweden here, and it's when you look at other league or other teams where they have guys playing in lower leagues, it's like it's kind of not the same. And that's why Sweden is just so sneaky every year, because even guys who either haven't been drafted or are draft eligible, like some like they're playing in the SHL, and they're playing against men, and it's like that's a pretty good league. So it's just interesting to see the makeup of where these guys are playing as you look at it at a glance.
This team looks like they were picked by the same guys who picked the Four Nations team, because Sweden has some guys who, maybe there's some talent out there that could be on the team.
Yeah.
But they picked guys who can play in the bottom six and play tougher physical matchups, and they brought some size to Sweden this year.
Yeah.
Herman,
especially between the pipes.
Oh yeah. But I'm saying laying body wise, like Herman Traff is a Devils prospect, 6'3", 216. That guy is going to throw the body around. Watch out for that.
Well, and how about the Sabres prospect too, Anton Wahlberg? Big 6'3",
194. Jack Berglund, 6'4", 209. Like, they brought a lot of size to this tournament. David Edstrom, who I mentioned, he's not going to play as physical, but he plays so rangy with his size and two-way. It's like they know what they knew what they were looking for when they made this team, and Axel Hertig fits that mold.
Totally.
Yeah. No, this team will be a force to be reckoned with in the tournament for sure. Let's see. We'll go with the Slovaks next. I think they're definitely next to go to here. So yeah, let's get into Slovakia.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Maxim Strabak, his 4th trip to the World Juniors. He was a top 3 player on the team last year, most assists by a defenseman in the tournament. Every year he increases his role and his production with this team, and that includes increasing his production with the NCAA, which he has every season with Michigan now. Excellent with the puck. Expect everything to go through him on this team. He will be a top 3 player for them again, and hopefully, for Harp, he will be in the top 4 for Buffalo in the near future.
Yeah.
Well, Case, if you're going with Serbak, the Buffalo prospect, I can only assume that Harper is going to go with Miroslav Shatan, who is the Washington Capitals prospect. Because
that's his favorite team.
Because he loves the Washington Capitals these days.
His father, Miroslav Shatan Sr.,
who
played for the Sabres, yes.
So there are so many connections. So Harp, if you don't pick Miroslav Shatan for your player to watch, I will be extremely disappointed. But I'm going to leave him for you in case that was a good pick. But I'm going to go with Luka Rajovic. Forgive me for the pronunciation here. It's tough. It's really tough.
Radivojevic,
nice. Yes.
Rajicevich, there's no S. Radivojevic.
No, Case got it.
We'll go with that.
Get on with it.
The defenseman from the USHL, okay, he's a 17-year-old. He's draft eligible this year, and he's projected to go late in the first round. So sticking with my theme of players who might have something to prove in this tournament, that's a guy who I'm looking to for a player to try to climb the ranks this year in the draft. So he doesn't have any goals, but he has 10 assists in 19 games in the USHL this season. He's known to be, by all accounts, an offensive defenseman, and he's the youngest defenseman on the team, but he's extremely highly talented, again, by all accounts from what I've read about this player. So it seems like he will be a guy that's relied on, possibly to quarterback the second power play. As a younger guy, I don't think he'll get the majority of minutes, but extremely talented player, expected to go this year pretty high in the draft, at least in the top 30, and a guy I'm extremely excited to watch. What do you think of that pick?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I looked into him, and that's why I know how to say his name.
Thanks.
I also drafted him in the NHL video games before, and I stared at that name for so long trying to figure it out. But
I had to sound it out when I'm looking at it.
Honestly, Chell does help with some of these names going in. Like, we do have to acknowledge that.
100%. But return player, we love return players, and a return player at his age, like, that's impressive.
That's
he was
crazy.
He was sheltered last year,
and I think he will be to an extent this year as well. He's still young, right? Like,
I don't know. I looked at the back end, and other than Strabak, I don't know who they're going to go to as like maybe Chromiak.
Chromiak, I think, will be relied on for sure.
But outside of that, I think that you're going to see Radivojevic be the guy at a young age.
Chromiak, by the way, I was surprised that he wasn't a late round pick this past draft in 2024 to an NHL team.
True. I mean, playing in North America.
Yeah.
Like playing for Sudbury, Kingston, Kitchener.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why he's bounced around so much.
Playing pro at a very young age.
That's right.
At 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some good numbers right there, though, with the Rangers, Kitchener Rangers.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, 16 points in 24 games. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like, looking at overage players, like, what X factor some scouting group thinks that player has, you know? It's like...
But again, like, just... I'll continue to go at this point, like, just so important, especially for contending NHL teams, to find those hidden gems, those overagers late in the draft that could really make an impact on your organization. Chromiak could certainly be one of those guys. Really like the Sturbach pick, obviously, and Buffalo is light on the right side of their defense group, and he's a prospect that they really like, so that is a nice pick for sure. Obviously, I'm going with Miroslav Šatan Jr.
Yeah!
For Slovakia. It's like, Chad, it's like he got a crystal ball or something.
I'm inside your head. That's all it is. I'm inside.
A Washington player with connections?
Oh, my God. And his dad played for the Sabres? Oh.
Yeah.
It's just...
it just lines up beautifully. Absolutely. Capital 7th rounder this year, 6'7" frame as a forward. So you guys know I like size up front and on the back end. Who doesn't?
Tage? Is he going to be Tage Thompson or Mario Lemieux?
We're not getting
Tage
into
Thompson,
this again.
who is the next man.
He's twice removed from Mario.
Yeah. We'll go back to Case's comment when Daniil Boot and Matthew Wood were both picked, and it was like, oh my God, like, you know, these guys who are 6'5" and over, they get picked. Immediately compared to Tage Thompson. What is this?
Boot and Simishev in the same year was crazy. By the way, I think that was wild.
I do like those picks for Utah.
I know you do.
Yeah,
yes. But anyway,
Boot lesser, Simishev crazy.
I like both those picks equally as much. But anyway,
I know you do. You're wrong, but I know you do.
Šatan, though, again, big frame, a lot of growing to do, but he's got a good stick, big reach, and I think he could be a real force for a Slovakian team looking to make some noise in this tournament.
Yeah, and I don't think that they have necessarily a go-to guy on offense.
I agree.
Like for the forwards.
I agree.
But what Šatan, remember Elmer Soderblom?
Yep.
For Sweden a couple of years ago, that large 6'7" frame, but like the hands on the guy, and the work down low. That's what Šatan reminds me of, and could be for Slovakia.
I watched Soderblom in preseason games against the Leafs, because they do a tournament every year in Traverse City, and Detroit's,
that's right.
Detroit's there, Toronto's there, and I watched him in back-to-back games last season, and I remember texting you guys saying Soderblom is gonna be legit, like he's gonna be a player, because in those games against, you know, let's be real, like guys who aren't expected to make the NHL, like he looked so good. Like he was dominating, but clearly he hasn't made the jump yet as a consistent NHL player. But it's crazy what size can do at this level before you get to the NHL level. So that's what I'll say. Like,
absolutely, yeah. And who knows what Jetan will turn into. I mean, his father had a pretty solid career, especially like with his best years in Buffalo. Clearly,
4 of his last 5 years in Buffalo: 75 points, 73 points, 62, 67, 66.
Yeah,
good years.
Exactly. And we've been kind of waiting on Soderblom since the tournament. So, but again, I mean, Washington, looking good right now, and kind of like the same conversation that we had about Minnesota. This could be a sustainable thing moving forward. Anyway, let's move on here. Switzerland is next, finishing up with Kazakhstan afterwards. Let's go into the Swiss.
Let's get these out. Let's bang it out.
Yeah, that's right.
I picked Leo Breard. I had to pick one of the returning players again. Love returning players, especially on this pod. We love them. These lower table teams rely heavily on returning players, and this guy has a crazy stat line in the past. 12 goals, 4 assists in the WHL this year. 10 goals, 3 assists in the U18 international play. The guy loves to shoot the puck. I also remember him from last year, and he is a dog and a bit of a water bug, as we've mentioned before for some players. Reminds me of Easton Cowan or Dawson Mercer, the way that he plays, watching him last year. So, yeah, Leo Breard, that's my guy to watch.
That's a good pick. That's someone I definitely considered when looking at this Swiss team. I wanted to point out, when I was looking for my player to watch, I noticed some interesting names on this team. One of which being, I want to say Ewan, E-W-A-N, Ewan? Is that, you guys think that's the correct pronunciation? Ewan? Hue?
We'll go with it.
Son of Cristobal Hue,
yes.
And also playing goalie for this team. I will say I looked into some of his numbers. E-W-A-N.
Yeah, German.
Is it?
Swiss is a German-speaking.
So the W.
I don't know. I could be.
Okay, it's either Evan or Ewan, but you can see right here he has the French and Swiss nationalities on.
Yes, Swiss has French, German, and Italian roots.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And okay, Case, I don't need a history lesson.
Well, I thought I would.
but point is, I've looked at some of the numbers. He's played for the Regina Pats this season in the dub. Hasn't gone great, if I'm being honest. He's 1-6-1 with an 867 save and a 503 goals against average. So that's not great. Those numbers aren't good. Looking at some of the other goaltenders, Christian Kirsch is the one guy who's been drafted by San Jose, but I decided to go in a different direction. Sticking with the names, there are 3 players here: Raphael, Simon, and Guion, G-I-A-N. I want to say Guion is how you pronounce that. Not sure. Meyer. All 3 of those guys' last names. Meyer. So if any of those players play like Timo, look out, because that's a player in the NHL. That is a forward.
That's right.
That is a power forward, right? 2 of those guys I mentioned are forwards, one's a defenseman. So look out. But the player I wanted to pick for guys to watch in this upcoming tournament, Lars Steiner is the guy I wanted to go with here. Okay, one of just 3 skaters on this team with North American experience. He's 17. He's eligible for the 2026 draft. Not even this upcoming draft, but the next draft in 2026. He's playing in the QMJHL. Like I mentioned, he has that North American experience. He has 14 goals, 22 assists for 36 points in 29 games played. I think, despite his age, he will be relied on to produce offense for this team. Notably, it is his first World Junior Championship this year. So, Lars Steiner, that's my player to watch. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if we don't love returning players and guys with bones to pick, it's
Guys with North American experience. Exactly.
Yeah, thanks for filling that in for me.
Yeah.
And 36 points in 29 games is nothing to scoff at in the QMJHL.
Well, as a
especially
guy
for a young man.
That's right. Projected to go in 2026. Case.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a guy going in the Gavin McKenna draft who could climb and climb and climb, especially playing one playoff game in the Swiss Pro League at the age of 16 is impressive.
That's pretty legit. Why?
Absolutely.
That's pretty legit. I mean, he would have been, that was last season, he would have been 16 then.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Right.
And of course we love returning players because, as we heard earlier with Ladislav Šmíd, he played in 3 World Juniors with Team Czechia. So of course we love that. Anyway, the player I'll go with Team Switzerland, again, big surprise, Washington Capitals prospect, second rounder this year.
God.
Leon Mugli.
Just
really
cheer for them.
Really
Paying you?
Oh my.
That's enough. Yeah, the relationship with my brother has never been better, clearly.
You're drinking the red and blue Kool-Aid.
That's right. The Emerson Kool-Aid. So Leon Mugli taking the low-hanging fruit here. He will be a big part of this Switzerland team. Again, another year older, already looked pretty good for them at last year's tournament, should be able to stand out. And this is from Stephen Ellis at Daily Faceoff. He's got a good mix of puck skills and physicality. So what that says to me is that he's a really good two-way defender, and he will be counted on to be a big part of Switzerland's success in this tournament at both ends of the ice.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a good pick to me. One of 2 second rounders for Washington in that draft. Yeah, he'll be a player to watch for sure. He'll be a guy who they rely on as like legit one of their go-to guys, right? I mean,
yep.
is that wrong to say? I feel like he'll be a driving force for this team.
Yes, absolutely. Kazakhstan.
Let's do it.
To wrap it up. Okay, Case.
Yeah, so I went with Kirill Lyaboinov. Well, say it with me. We love returning players. This will be his third time on the team, not in the World Juniors.
I was going to say, returning players, they were relegated.
Well, yes, they were in Div 1A last year. But it's his third time on this team.
Okay.
Couple interesting things that I wanted to say about this team. First of all, they're playing Hawkesbury this weekend.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
They're playing the Hawkesbury Hawks.
That's right.
As a pre-tournament game.
For people who don't understand, CCHL Junior A hockey team, Hawkesbury Hawks, usually pretty good. We gotta qualify that.
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing is, I had some low hopes going into this tournament for this team, but a surprising amount of MHL players on this team, which I wasn't really expecting. That's kind of the CHL of Russia, we'll call it.
Yep.
The interesting thing that came out of that is this team has 16 players from the same team.
That's so crazy.
Wow. 16 players from the same MHL team, which is the Nizhny Barsy Astana, which we're calling this the Nizhny Barsy Astana All-Star Team. Kirill Lyaboinov is the leading scorer from that team. Naturally, I had to go with them. He's having a very productive season in the MHL, 32 points in 28 games. And I think that, considering this team is essentially that MHL team, they're going to rely on him. They're going to look to him to be the guy producing points in this tournament, as he has for them all season. So, that's my guy.
If I
nice.
Butt in Hawkesbury, middle of the pack, 5th overall, CCHL 2.
Okay.
CCHL.
Not sure if the mic's picking that up. Cory is saying Hawkesbury, 5th overall In the CCHL.
Out of 8 playoff teams that make it out of 12 total.
That was one way to say that.
Middle of the pack
Middle
team.
of the pack team.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Corey, do you know who's in first, or where are the Braves sitting at? Are they?
So the Braves are in 7th or 8th.
Second in the conference.
Robinson, yeah.
Okay.
Division.
The Rockland Nationals are in 1st. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a good buddy of mine who plays for Smiths Falls.
Okay,
He
Smiths
says
Falls.
Rockland is the team to beat.
Rockland
Yeah.
is the team to beat. Okay.
And I know the guy you're talking about, Chunk, Travis Ouellette.
Yep.
Really good player for Smiths
He's not
Falls.
that good.
He's not that good. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Case, that's a good pick. That was a player I was thinking of taking for my player to watch, but I went with Semyon Simonov, who is the only forward on this team who plays on that MHL team, by the way, that you mentioned, where I think roughly 13 of these 16 of these players play on this Kazakhstan.
Let me get that pronunciation again. It's Snezhny Barzi Eshtanya.
Okay, thanks for that.
You should have been doing the PA with me tonight.
That's right. So I picked a player, one of 16 apparently, on this MHL team that resides in Kazakhstan. But I went with a guy who is the only player on this team with KHL experience. He's played 7 games in the KHL, and that's Semyon Simonov. Okay, 7 games in the KHL. He didn't have any points, so that's a bit of an asterisk there. But he has 9 goals, 7 assists, and 16 points in 15 MHL games. That puts him just second in points per game, behind the guy that you picked, Kirill. So, and I wanted to pick this player because he's played KHL games this season, despite the fact he hasn't got any production there. He's played them. He's
You missed out on
trust.
Arazov, who has 30 KHL games played but 0 points.
Well, I was talking forward, so maybe I didn't clarify.
No.
Yeah, maybe I didn't clarify that. But you're correct. But that's my player to watch on Kazakhstan. Like we said off the top, Kazakhstan is a team who has just come back into the tournament. After Austria was relegated this season. We don't expect a ton from Team Kazakhstan,
but we wish them all the best.
Okay, we wish them the best, and they have some decent players who are playing in the MHL, and this player in particular in the KHL for 7 games.
I think with a team like this, especially, you're looking for one of 2 things. At least I am. You're looking for point production, like really good point production, or guys who are NHL draft picks. And so I've got one right here. Goaltender Vladimir Nikitin, Ottawa Senators 7th rounder in 2023, 19-year-old, 6'5" goaltender who has struggled so far this season in the MHL for, I believe, the
same team.
Same team you're talking about in Kazakhstan. But last season in the BCHL, 15-6-3 record, like really good numbers there. So, was obviously still a young man trying to to make his way, but big goaltender and could possibly have an impact on this Kazakhstan team just getting back into the fold here at the 2025 World Juniors in Ottawa. So yeah, going with Nikitin, and you know what, it'd be kind of a cool story, right? Like a Senators prospect playing for Kazakhstan who could maybe give them some quality outings with the tournament being in Ottawa.
Yeah, well, talk about one of the reasons why this team is in this tournament. It's this goalie. Last year in the Div 1A, he tore it up for them. 4-1. He played, the bulk of the minutes for this team. A .944 save percentage and a goal 48 goals against average. this is a key reason why this team is in this tournament. He's going to be back again in net. It's why he got drafted in the NHL. It is his play in that tournament last year. This monster filling the net is going to see a lot of pucks, so he's going to be a guy front of your mind.
Can we look at the roster again? Is he the only NHL draft pick on this roster?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
I
right,
thought so. Yeah, okay. Perfect. Yeah. So
he is.
Anyway.
And so maybe he'll be able to save the Ottawa Senators going forward. What do you think?
I mean, they're getting saves right now.
They don't need saves. They're getting them all right now. Allmark's been really good, I will say.
Yeah. But Ottawa kind of continuing the theme of drafting big goaltenders from countries that you wouldn't necessarily, they wouldn't come to your mind first. You know what I mean?
Who's the guy you're thinking?
Well, like Mads Søgaard, for example, 6'7" goaltender from Denmark, who the Senators drafted.
Freddie Anderson's pretty good.
Martin Gerber.
Yeah, Martin Gerber. He was a Swiss. Then you got this kid, Nikitin from Kazakhstan. So, yeah, Ottawa likes the big goalies from these European countries, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So what I want to say about this team before we end this thing is that I wish I came into this with the schedule in front of me, but I think that they could shock a team very early on, because
I hope so.
You come into this tournament and you play with a bunch of guys that maybe you haven't played with before, maybe you've trained with but haven't seen ice time with. This is a team that has chemistry. This is 16 guys who've played together.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
They're going to have some sort of functionality together, and they could shock a team early on if they really put things together.
16 guys on one MHL team is really crazy if you think about it.
It's the only MHL team in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, and that's
something to point.
That's really.
But the MHL is not is a good league.
Yeah, no, the like we've talked about, the MHL is equivalent to the CHL. Like it's legit.
Yeah.
The scoring isn't as high. Like if you look at goalie prospects who play in the MHL, they always have like a 950 save, right? Like if a guy is projected to go, like if he's a draft pick, he's gonna have like a 950 save. Like for example, Artur Atyomov was a guy drafted by the Maple Leafs years ago, and of course top of my head is Maple Leafs guys, so you know, forgive me for that. But Atyomov was a guy who played for like 2 years in the MHL, had incredible numbers, but it's like you can't read into it too much because the MHL is pretty low scoring, just like the KHL, really.
Sure. Yeah.
So low scoring league, but pretty good.
No, definitely.
Stand schedule: Sweden, Czech, Slovak, Swiss. If there was one upset, who is it?
Switzerland.
But I wish that was the first game they played.
Even.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It was.
Yeah. Exactly.
They go Sweden, Czechs right off the bat.
Hold on. Repeat. I don't know if you're getting picked up by the mic. Repeat, and then I'll.
Kazakhstan goes Sweden, Czechs, Slovak, Swiss.
Kazakhstan schedule is Sweden, Czechs, Slovaks, Swiss. Who will be the first upset if it happens?
If there is one.
Who do we think?
See, I'd want them to play Switzerland first.
If it was flipped.
Same.
But I don't know.
Or Slovakia first.
Right.
But you never know. I mean, we saw Czechia tonight.
I don't think Sweden is messing around.
No.
I don't think they're messing around.
No.
This could be a year for them.
Yeah.
A year for Sweden to push through. Like with a guy like with guys on the back end like Wallinder and Sandy Pellikka, like
yeah,
I think this team is legit.
God love you, Chunk. Just like on these things. That's
Producer
awesome.
How nice.
Yeah.
Producer in the air with a week left of me.
How nice would it be if we just had a guy to pull stuff up for our dumb asses?
Yeah, half the time I'm just vamping so I can fact check myself before I say something like Celebrini playing for.
Next question.
Here's another question.
Schedule, Slovak, Kazakhstan, Swiss, Czechs last game. Do they go 4-0?
Does Sweden go 4-0?
Slovaks,
Kazakhstan,
Swiss, Czechs.
Because Sweden's always, that's been like their kryptonite, right? Like they've always had a hell of a time getting to the medal round.
Yeah, they've been incredible in round robin.
Yeah.
And then they
Right. Czechs
blow it.
are their last game and arguably hardest opponent.
Yes.
But they have 3 games under their belt and they play Czechs. Do they go for it?
I think the toughest game will be against the Czechs. The Czechs are they're going to be a great team.
Yeah.
But
I recognize a lot of names on that roster tonight.
yes.
Big time.
Which, by the way, I feel like the Czechs were legit like 20 years ago. And then there was a lull, and now we're back to the Czechs being
They're
legit.
so back.
The Czechs were legit in 2023 in Halifax when they played Canada in the gold medal game, which is why it was so great to have them here tonight.
Wasn't that like a 1-0 or like a 2-1 game or something?
2-1, I think. Yeah.
Czechia came back late in that game and forced overtime, and then Dylan Gunther obviously got the goal. But I mean that
was the year that he saved it off the goal line, right? McTavish saved it off the goal line.
That roster was loaded with Juracek and Kulik, and the list goes on. Anyway.
All right, wrap it up for us.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve, we got Swedes, Czechs, and Canada, USA back to back.
Sweden, Canada for me on New Year's Eve. Swedes, Czechs, Canada, USA. I'm taking Swedes, Canada on New Year's Eve.
Taking Canada, Czechia.
I like it.
Wow. Okay.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay, well, Harp, you got to pick.
Cool.
What do you mean cool?
I'm not picking.
No,
at this
you
point.
have.
We're wrapping it up.
Pick now, and then we'll wrap up.
I do need you to repeat me the matchup. Swedes, Czechs, Canada, States. I'll take the Czechs and Canada.
So I'm the Swedish boy here.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Awesome. Are we ready to wrap up?
I like the Swedes. I'll just say I really do.
Yeah, well, we like the underdogs.
I see that.
Yeah, Brockville likes the underdogs.
That's us.
We're Brockville
underdogs. That was the funniest part of today.
That was great. That was great.
The crowd erupted. But
awesome game tonight. Czechia, Latvia. That was fantastic. Pardon me?
Great interview.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you again to Ladislav Šmíd, former NHL defenseman and one of the coaches with Team Czechia, for coming on. That was awesome. Thank you to Ryan Robbins from Hockey Canada and Lindsay Bigley from Brockville Tourism for having me involved tonight. That was great. And thank you for listening to our World Junior preview episode 225 here on the Boys in the Booth podcast. That's right. It truly is a special time of the year. We can't wait for the tournament to get going. It all starts Boxing Day, December 26th on TSN. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We'll chat with you again soon. Take care.
This has been another episode of Boys in the Booth with Harper Cody, Chad Melbourne, and Casey Abrams. Connect with the Boys in the Booth on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Boys in the Booth. Visit boysinthebooth.com for show details. And don't forget, you can become a patron of the podcast for just $1 a month at patreon.com/boysinthebooth.